Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com here with the wrap-up video for the Playing on a Budget with the White Heroics. I thought this deck performed very well. I do apologize for the one redundancy in the black-blue control. And we didn't see the Abzan midrange. My experience with this deck is it does very, very well against an Abzan midrange type deck. You can protect your creatures. It's so good against like Plukranos, as you can God's Willing or Ajani's Presence against Plukranos, and then they waste their monstrosity, and then you can a lot of times attack in for lethal with like Fabled Hero. It's just against the Abzan midrange decks, what it really comes down to is you protect, clog up the board until you can do that one turn or two turn or just the tempo type kills on with like the Fabled Hero or the Dawnbringer Charioteers. So speaking of our deck here, this is a little bit of an upgraded version. I think that we want four Seeker of the Ways. The card did seem incredibly powerful, as you can rely on them on the main board and you can put the Dawnbringer Charioteers in the sideboard, and you'll have enough life gain through the main board with Seeker of the Way to gain the needed life against the like Rabblemaster Red type decks or like that Launch the Fleet deck. And then post sideboard you can bring in the Dawnbringer Charioteers, because I do think that Seeker of the Way is better against like control decks than Dawnbringer Charioteers, and it's still decent against the aggro decks. And then against aggro decks you'd probably bring out Akroan Skyguard for the Dawnbringer Charioteers, or another card like, I don't think you'd ever take Fabled Hero, but you just switch the Skyguards out with the Dawnbringer Charioteers. Now you do want about 1/3 land, 1/3 creatures, 1/3 spell. That's pretty much a given. You want 2, 2, and 2 is the perfect opening hand. 2 lands, 2 non-creature spells, and 2 creatures. Now I've upped the count main board and launched the fleets. I do think that these are pretty good. Again, I did keep a Brimaz, Vanguard of Brimaz in the sideboard with the Spear of Heliod. You can bring both of those in against decks that does a lot better by trying to spread out a lot of the different threats. I cut one Devouring Light to make room for the sideboard Dawnbringer Charioteers, and the one more Launch the Fleet main board, and the one more Seeker of the Way main board. So pretty much I don't think there's much you need to do to this deck. If you start to go into blue, I've talked about this before, is you have access to Flooded Strand, then your deck does become a little more potent, because then you can start using cards, heroic cards. There's Battlefield Thaumaturge, there's like Hour of Need that can be kind of cool in a token base strategy. And then you can go more of the Vanguard of Brimaz route with Launch the Fleets, and then Hour of Need again just creates the ability to make your tokens into 4/4 blue flyers end of turn, and that's pretty powerful, pretty potent. So you also have awesome cards in the like Titan Track. This isn't bad, but it's really what you want blue for is Ordeal of Heliod. This card enables heroic. Puts a +1/+1 counter on it when you enable heroic, if that's what the heroic is particularly doing. It then puts another +1/+1 counter when you attack with it, and if you manage to get another +1/+1 counter on it before you attack, you get to sack it and draw 2 cards. So a lot of times it is getting you 2 to 3 free counters on your card, and then drawing you 2 cards, so replacing itself and drawing you cards. And I've seen some versions use Ordeal of Heliod and then Hero Virios. But my testing is I like spells over auras, and I don't really want to go too much into the aura route. And one thing that also blue adds to the mix is going to be the Aqueous Form, which you can put unblockable on your Favored Hoplite. Like, it's really cool first turn Favored Hoplite, second turn Aqueous Form, and then keep up like a God's Willing or a Ajani's Presence to protect it. And then you have a 2/3 unblockable that scries each turn that you'll be able to scry lands to the bottom and fill up your hand with relevant cards. And then the following turn, again, you can like Defiant Strike, and now you have a 3/4 unblockable, and your Favored Hoplite just starts to feel like a Goyf, an unblockable Goyf that then you just keep protecting, and a few turns down the road they end up dying and not being able to basically kill your little hexproof guy that keeps scrying you a card. So anywho, there is a few other blue cards you can toy around with, like Swan Song I found to be pretty powerful, Negate, Dissolve. Dissolve I don't recommend, because you have to go too much into blue. Usually with Flooded, I like to put in Flooded Strands and then just Temples, as the temples can actually scry into more relevant cards. And then you have Disdainful Stroke, which is pretty awesome in this format as it counters anything like Sorin to Sarkon to Nissa to Pelucranos to Utter End to End Hostilities, which is one of the reasons why I actually like going into blue, is I do have an answer for End Hostilities. And we also have the Ferocious counterspell in the form of the Stubborn Denial, counter target non-creature spell unless you pay 1, and you'd be surprised. So it's pretty easy to hit Ferocious in this deck, as with Seeker of the Way, it's pretty easy to get up to a 4/4 on their turn, and as well as Favored Hoplite or Fabled Hero or Akroan Skyguard, they get up to 4/4s quite fast, especially against decks that you want to be running counter spells. So lots of options in the format. There's plenty of cards to choose from. I was thinking about even going into green for like scales, for hardened scales, but it just didn't seem right. But green ends up having some decent strive cards as well in the format that work well, like Citizen Tactics, that you can make your dudes fight. They're usually be bigger. If it's Favored Hoplite and Citizen Tactics has a pretty sweet interaction. You're preventing damage that would be dealt to it, but it still is able to deal damage itself. You have Solidarity of Heroes that you double the amount of +1/+1 counters on them. It hits after heroic hits, so then you can double those counters. You have other cards like the Delve card that gives it +6/+6 is pretty sweet. I don't have a, let's see here. Pull it up here. The Become Immense isn't shabby whatsoever on a Fabled Hero, as now you're swinging in for a 9/9 double. Well, it's gonna be an 8/8. Then the heroic trigger makes it a 9/9 double strike, and this a lot of times can only cost 1 delve, and yeah, it's pretty sweet. So what I'm trying to say here is there's a lot of options, even into black. If you go into black, then you can get some pretty sweet cards. But I'm liking the mono white just because the mana base is so lovely. This deck, of course, costs around 30 tickets. You can cut some expense, some fat out here with taking out the launch the fleets, and then you're really into bulk rare territory. Banishing Lights aren't a must either. I mean, I think the 15 or 50% of the deck. The cost was between these Launch the Fleets and Banishing Lights, and you can really get this down to just a commons and uncommons deck, like I think they call it Peasant when you just use commons and uncommons. But if you cut out the Fabled Heroes and the Dawnbringer Charioteers, and the Launch the Fleets, now you're actually stuck with just commons and uncommons, and it's doing quite well for a deck that that costs $25 to $30. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know any other ideas that you would have for like a $25 to $30 budget deck. We're probably going to go back to the $100 range on playing on a budget. That seems to be the ideal spot for the show, for the series. And I do get some comments like, this card isn't a budget card because it's like over $30, but we make room. Like Brimaz wouldn't be too bad in this deck. If you have Brimazes, you could definitely put them in and see how well they work. There's some great interactions with the Brimaz, and just keeping them alive. Again, it's a nice little tempo card that's going to add you 1/1 tokens. And I do prefer Fabled Hero over Brimaz. I have tested it, and Fabled Hero definitely was a better card than Brimaz with this type of swing in on one turn with a bunch of pumps. But yeah, now let me know what you think about this deck, and your comments are appreciated. This is Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.